Section 1. The Final Sprint. The Unsolved Vanishing of Lars Mittank. Some stories begin with a person running, but few end with them running into thin air. On July 8, 2014, a 28-year-old German man named Lars Mittank did just that. He was on vacation with friends in Golden Sands, a resort town on Bulgaria's Black Sea coast. The trip had been ordinary until a minor scuffle in a fast food restaurant left him with a ruptured eardrum. Because of the injury, a doctor advised him not to fly. While his friends returned to Germany as planned, Lars stayed behind to heal, checking into a cheap hotel near Varna Airport. It was during this time alone that his behavior grew increasingly erratic and fearful, a stark contrast to the easygoing person his family knew. In paranoid phone calls to his mother, Lars whispered that he was being followed by 4 men who wanted to rob him and wanted to kill him. He claimed they were sent by the same people he had argued with at the restaurant. He texted his mother, asking her to cancel his credit cards and telling her to hide. The morning of his planned flight home, he hailed a taxi to the airport, but then suddenly fled the cab, leaving his luggage behind and leaving his wallet behind. He entered the airport terminal, where he spoke briefly with an airport doctor. It was during this consultation that a man dressed as an airport worker entered the room, and Lars's terror spiked. He bolted from the office, leaving everything, including his passport, behind. The video shows him sprinting through the terminal, out the entrance, across the lot, over a tall fence, and into the sunflower fields and forest beyond. He was never seen again. Section 2. A Walk into Nothing. The Dual Disappearance of Conor and Sheila Dwyer. The Dual Disappearance of Conor and Sheila Dwyer. In the quiet, tight-knit community of Fermoy, County Cork, Ireland, people look out for one another. That is what makes the disappearance so profoundly unsettling. On April 30th, 1991, the married couple, both in their early 60s, left their home to attend a funeral mass at St. Patrick's Church. They were well-known and well-liked, a seemingly ordinary pair on a somber, routine day. They were seen by multiple witnesses walking through the town and near the church, but they never arrived at the service. After the mass, they simply failed to return home, and the silence they left behind has lasted for over 3 decades. The initial investigation uncovered baffling non-clues. Their car, a white Toyota Cressida, was missing. No sign of a struggle at home. It was locked and undisturbed. Their passports and money were left behind. It was as if 2 people, in a busy town in broad daylight, stepped off the face of the earth. In the years that followed, there were no credible sightings, no financial activity, and no bodies ever recovered. One persistent idea: they staged their disappearance. But this seems unlikely given their age, their deep roots, and that they left behind all financial resources. Another theory suggests foul play. Perhaps they interrupted a crime or had a chance encounter with someone who meant them harm. Without a crime scene, a suspect, or any physical evidence, it remains pure speculation. For their loved ones, the lack of an answer is a wound that never heals. Section 3. The Paper Route That Never Ended. Genette Tate's Silent Abduction. In the idyllic English countryside, a child's paper route is a symbol of youthful independence and community trust. But on August 19, 1978, in the village of Aylesbury, Devon, that symbol was shattered. 13-year-old Genette Tate, a bright and cheerful girl, set off on her bicycle to deliver newspapers, a familiar journey she made every day. Her red bike was loaded with papers. She waved to friends. She pedaled down the quiet country lane. It was a perfectly normal summer afternoon, but Genette never completed her route. She never came home for tea. The search began almost immediately, villagers and police fanning out across the fields through hedgerows that lined her route. What they found was not Genette, but a scene frozen in time. Her bicycle was found lying in the middle of the lane, its wheels still spinning. Scattered on the road around it were the newspapers she had been delivering, strewn as if dropped in a sudden hurry. There were no signs of a major struggle, no skid marks from a car, and no witnesses to what had happened. One theory centered on Robert Black, a Scottish serial killer and delivery driver whose roadside abductions resembled what may have happened to Genette. He died in prison in 2016 without admitting involvement. Without a confession or forensic evidence, the case remains officially unsolved. For over 4 decades, her family and community have carried the scar of that afternoon, a question that echoes through generations. Section 4. Lost Above the Clouds. The enduring enigma of Malaysia Airlines flight MH370. A routine flight is a modern miracle we take for granted, a journey through the sky that almost always ends safely on the ground. But on March 8, 2014, that miracle failed. Malaysia Airlines flight MH370, a Boeing 777 carrying 227 passengers and 12 crew members, took off from Kuala Lumpur, bound for Beijing. For the first 38 minutes, everything was normal. Pilots communicated with air traffic control, but then, somewhere over the South China Sea, the plane's transponder was switched off. The last verbal communication was a calm, "Good night, Malaysian 370. Shortly after, the plane vanished from civilian radar. The mystery captivated and horrified the world. Military radar showed odd returns, and satellite data later confirmed inexplicable maneuvers. Instead of continuing toward Beijing, the aircraft turned back and then flew south over the Indian Ocean for hours. Automated pings allowed investigators to estimate a vast search arc in the remote southern Indian Ocean. The largest and most expensive search in aviation history scoured the ocean floor, yet the main wreckage was never found. Fragments, including a flaperon, washed ashore on African coasts and Indian Ocean islands, confirming a crash at sea but offering no cause. Catastrophic failure, hijacking, or intentional act. Each theory is fraught with problems. For the families of the 239 on board, the lack of resolution is torment. MH370 remains one of the greatest aviation mysteries, proof that even in a hyper-connected world, a plane can be lost without a trace. On the day before Thanksgiving in 1971, a man in a business suit who identified himself as Dan Cooper boarded a Northwest Orient Airlines flight from Portland to Seattle. He was quiet and unassuming, ordering a bourbon and soda as the plane took off. Shortly after, he passed a note to a flight attendant, calmly informing her that he had a bomb in his briefcase. To prove it, he briefly opened the case, revealing wires and red sticks. His demands were simple: $200,000 in unmarked $20 bills and 4 parachutes. He requested refueling in Seattle with the cabin unpressurized. Once his demands were met, Cooper released the passengers, then most of the crew. He ordered the pilots toward Mexico City at 10,000 feet and a slow airspeed. Sometime after 8 p.m., in a raging storm, he lowered the aft staircase of the Boeing 727, strapped on a parachute, and leaped into the freezing, rain-swept night with the ransom money. He was never seen or heard from again. The FBI launched NORJAC, an exhaustive investigation. Ground searches found no parachute, no briefcase, no body. Then, in 1980, a boy found 3 decaying bundles of cash on the Columbia River bank. The serial numbers matched the ransom. The FBI investigated over 1,000 suspects, but none definitively identified. Many say he likely died on impact or from exposure. Others think he was an experienced paratrooper who escaped. The money could have washed downriver over time. In 2016, the FBI closed the active investigation, yet the legend of D.B. Cooper, the gentleman skyjacker who jumped into the unknown, lives on. Long before the digital age made vanishings a matter of data trails and satellite images, an entire community disappeared, leaving behind only a single, cryptic clue. In 1587, over 115 English men, women, and children established a settlement on Roanoke Island, off modern-day North Carolina, led by Governor John White. Shortly after, his granddaughter Virginia Dare became the first English child born in the Americas. White sailed back to England for supplies, but the war with Spain prevented a return for 3 long years. In August 1590, he found the settlement gone. Houses dismantled, no signs of struggle, no graves. The only clue, Croatoan carved into a post and CRO on a tree. Croatoan was a nearby island and the name of a friendly tribe. White had told the colonists to carve their destination and add a Maltese cross if in distress. There was no cross. Bad weather and mishaps kept White from reaching Croatoan Island. Historians and archaeologists have debated the fate of the lost colony for centuries. The leading theory, the colonists assimilated with the Croatoan and other local tribes, eventually losing a distinct English identity. Other theories suggest disease, a severe storm, or death at the hands of a hostile tribe. Despite recent finds and ongoing research, the ultimate fate of the Roanoke colonists remains one of America's oldest and most profound historical mysteries. Few cases of a missing child have captured and held the world's attention like that of Madeleine McCann. The widely circulated smiling photo of Madeleine McCann became the face of the global search effort. On the evening of May 3, 2007, Praia da Luz, a resort town in Portugal's Algarve region. 3-year-old Madeleine vanished from her bed in a holiday apartment. Her parents were dining just 55 meters away with friends. They had a system of checking the children every half hour. At around 10 p.m., Kate McCann found Madeleine gone. The window to the bedroom was open. The immediate aftermath was chaos and panic as a massive search was launched. Portuguese police, hotel staff, and hundreds of volunteers searched as the case exploded into international news. Her parents made heart-wrenching appeals. The image of the small girl with a distinctive dark mark in her right eye became globally recognized. The investigation was plagued by early missteps and conflicting theories, creating a storm of media speculation and public debate. Portuguese police controversially named the parents as suspects. That status was later lifted. Countless leads were pursued. No one has ever been charged. The case is a web of unconfirmed sightings, questionable evidence, and hard-to-verify testimonies. Recently, German prosecutors named Christian Bruckner a prime suspect, believing he abducted and killed her, yet charges remain unfiled for lack of definitive proof. For Madeleine's parents, years of relentless hope and grief continue. Even with global attention and modern techniques, a single lost child can remain unfound, leaving a family suspended in waiting. Fame and fortune offer no protection from the mysteries of the open sea. Bison Dele, formerly known as Brian Williams, a talented but enigmatic center, won an NBA championship in 1997. In 1999, at his peak with millions left, he abruptly retired to travel the world. In July 2002, he was sailing his catamaran, the Hakuna Matata, across the South Pacific. With him, his girlfriend Serena Carlin and Captain Bertrand Saldo. They were later joined in Tahiti by his older brother, Miles DeBoard. This is where the story turns dark. On July 8, 2002, all communication ceased. Weeks went by with no word. The alarm rose in September when DeBoard arrived alone on the boat. Questioned, he claimed Dele killed Carlin in a rage. He shot Dele in self-defense, then threw 3 bodies overboard and sailed alone. The boat had been cleaned, the nameplate removed. No blood, no bodies, no weapons. DeBoard fled to the United States and Mexico, using Dele's passport and credit cards after the disappearance. He was later found in a coma after an apparent insulin overdose, never regained consciousness, and died in California. As the only witness, his account is suspect and unproven. Did a tragic argument lead to 3 deaths, or was it a plot for wealth and identity? With no evidence, the sea keeps its secret.